thank you for joining Freebirding Friedmans. Today, my co-host and husband, Joel Friedman, joins us again. And we have a special guest, Mary Murphy. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Mary is an associate professor at the USC School of the Annenberg School. And is a lifelong journalist. And I'm going to let her explain a few other of her career highlights because they are so impressive I can't remember them all.
Oh, that's so sweet. But first I wanted to say, what we were talking about.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
About raising kids, because my daughter and son-in-law lost their apartment in one of the fire things. And I said, oh, come stay with me. My daughter was pregnant. I now have my daughter, son-in-law, and a 3-year-old who comes into my room every morning.
Oh my
doesn't
gosh.
matter how old I am. And she says, Gaga, dance. So if you wonder why I'm so lively, that's it.
Oh, that's a great story.
Yeah.
She keeps you young.
She keeps me young. She keeps me young. But, journalism keeps me young. Teaching keeps me young. Learning keeps me young. Curiosity. I didn't know I was going to be a journalist. I graduated from college with a degree in political science. And I wanted to work in politics, but I only typed 17 words a minute, and no one would hire me in a bad job. And the way I got into journalism is I met the publisher of a newspaper in St. Louis, and I met with him for an hour, and he said to me, I'm going to hire you as a reporter. And I said, but I can't really type. And he said, I don't care if you can type, you can think.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I walked into a newsroom, and I thought, I love this.
And that's been, I'm sorry, I'm going to close my iPad because it's making some sound, and hopefully that'll stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really need my notes because I can tell that you're going to have a lot to say, and hopefully I'll remember what I mean to ask. But,
okay.
And so that's been your entire career. You've been a journalist
Yeah,
or a professor.
Yeah,
or both.
I've been a journalist my whole career. And when I moved to California, of course, I don't tell my students this, but I came here for a boy, not for a job. And I applied to the Los Angeles Times, and the editor said, I'll call you on Friday and let you know. Well, Friday came, so I was sitting there, and so I called him. I said, excuse me, you said you were going to call me and tell me if I had a job. And he said, oh, yeah, I forgot. Yes, start Monday.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
Well,
Isn't
that's
it?
actually a great story, and I'm going to take a segue completely away from what we're talking
yeah.
about. But I've seen this with my son, who luckily is employed now. But ghosting people who are going for interviews these days is common. So do you suggest a follow-up call?
Yeah, it's interesting that students were talking about ghosting today. I thought it was only in relationships, but it's not, because they said that the pandemic really had an impact on it.
Interesting.
And, I know, I always follow-up call. One of the things I think about now is I love this younger generation, but they're afraid to hurt people's feelings. They don't think they should call and bother somebody. One student said to me, if I ask a tough question and they don't like it, will it ruin my reputation? I said, no. If you don't ask a tough question, it will ruin your reputation. But ghosting is something that is so prevalent and so hurtful.
So hurtful.
Yeah.
But absolutely they're going the wrong way in terms of having a career. If you have a career, you have to be on it. You have
So
to
make
keep
that
going
follow-up
after
call.
it. Yeah. Make 1, make 2, make 3. It doesn't matter.
So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think on the other side of it, if you're on the other side, give the feedback. I think it's a gift,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and it's a sign of respect to just let people know, you weren't the perfect match for this, or we've chosen to move along with somebody
Yeah.
else.
And why?
And maybe a little bit of why. Maybe you don't even have to say why, but just that's such a valuable thing for the other side to have some skill and be able to talk about.
Yeah,
too.
and it made me think about when Entertainment Tonight, I was working at a magazine, and Entertainment Tonight wanted to interview me, and they did, for a job, and then I didn't hear anything for 8 months.
Wow.
And then they called me and said, oh, we'd like you to work for us. But if I had ghosted them or they had ghosted me, I'd never have that career.
Yeah.
So be persistent and patient, it sounds
Be
like.
be persistent. I don't know about patient, but be persistent, because you can't, honestly, I always tell my students, you can defy anybody except cops. Those are the one people you can't defy. But no, be persistent, because people like me, who I'm so busy, and editors and producers and are so busy that they get so many emails a day that they can't keep up. And then if you they say, okay, I better pay attention to this.
Keep yourself at the top of the interest
Yeah,
list.
exactly.
Well, that's good advice. The other piece that I want to ask, I know you teach mostly younger students, but we're also talking about people in our age range who are starting second careers, or maybe have been stay-at-home moms and are trying to get back to work for the first time.
Yeah.
Do you see any common threads between what you teach your students and what?
Yeah, I do, because as I said, I'm producing this half-hour show with my graduate students, and they just came up with the name. It's called TakeTwo, meaning you can start all over again. You can do a second thing. And I remember when I had been a TV guide for 27 years.
Oh my gosh.
And then suddenly they were like, goodbye. And I thought, oh, it's over. And somebody said to me, oh no, it's not over, it's just beginning. And it was. I didn't know that. I had no idea that if you were let go after decades in one place, that you could go on and have a magnificent career, but you can't.
And you have.
And I have. I have.
What have some of the highlights been since that moment that you thought it might be over?
Oh, okay. Well, I think there were two major highlights. One, I was hired by Entertainment Tonight, back again, a little bit older, not much wiser, but older. And the other thing is, I got an email from a former editor of mine from New York Magazine asking me one question: could you go to Rwanda? Could I go to Rwanda? Did I know? Okay, so for this editor, this is after I thought my career was over. It began. I went to Rwanda for the genocide. I went to Cambodia. I went to India. I went to Sri Lanka. I covered wars. I covered genocides. I mean, it was so exciting. But I wouldn't have known that if I thought, oh, if you only have one thing. But when somebody said, no, it's not the end, it's the beginning, I didn't believe it, but it really was.
That's great advice.
Yeah, absolutely. And the ability to do all that international travel, was that while you still had kids at home, or was that actually after that?
I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, when I had kids at home, I didn't want to do that. I thought, I don't want to miss the soccer game. I don't want to miss the football game. I don't want to miss their things. So mostly I stayed at home. And I did have a job, though, when they were young, where at Entertainment Tonight, the first time I was there. And then my husband, at the time, had brain surgery. And I had two little kids. And so he had brain surgery. And I remember coming back to Entertainment Tonight after being in the hospital for 24 hours, and somebody ran up to me and said, "Thank God you're here. Cher has a new perfume." And I thought to myself, oh, really? You think that's important? But what I said to myself was, this is not a job for a mother. I have a sick husband and I have two little kids. So I went in and, as I said, I told him I can't do this anymore. And did I say that?
Not since we started
okay,
the podcast,
all right, good.
no.
So I went in and I said, I can't do this anymore, and I need to quit. And they said, you can't, because you have a contract with Paramount. Don't tell Paramount this, but anyway. Then about a week later, they said, yeah, you can quit, and I did. And also at the same time, I reached out to TV Guide to see if I could go back there, and I said I wanted the same salary that I got in television, and they gave it to me. And then when my producer said I could quit, they just said, we're just not telling Paramount, and they paid me. And I couldn't leave my kid. It wasn't the right thing for me. It wasn't right to take a job that you have no control over. When you have a job like in a print, you can say to Tom Cruise or somebody, sorry, I can't do it at 10 a.m. because oh, that's when my daughter's whatever is at school. I could do it at 2. And it really was important to me to be, if I had children, to be a mother, So I traveled later when they were in high school and
Great.
college.
So it opened up at that point.
Yeah.
You were then able to take on some things that you couldn't even fathom doing when you were in the core of mothering young children.
Even suggesting, I remember going into my editors at TV Guide saying, I want to go with the White House press corps to China with the president. We're like, okay. And I did, but I couldn't have done that when my kids were little because, you spend a couple weeks in China. But I'm glad I did it this way. I don't regret. I mean, especially my kids are now grown. My daughter is a writer-director, and my son is a deputy DA and downtown in Los Angeles. And I think I wouldn't have been a good mother if I had just put career first. It looks like I did because I've had a great career, but I really put motherhood first.
Yeah.
And now you're full steam ahead. You came from teaching, you're going to the Dolby Theater tonight. What keeps you at this speed and keeps your passion so high?
I think I'm a fairly optimistic person, but also I think when I walk across a campus at USC, I think about my mother was one of 15 kids, and their father read to them every night, all the classics, and I think, oh my God, my mother would be so proud of me being in an educational institution. But I'm excited by, I think people make choices. So I'm excited by the fact that the choice I made was not to say, oh, the way we used to do it is the best. The choice I've made is to say, what is new? What are we evolving to? How can I learn about it? I think that is a better way. I just think people get stuck, and I can understand that. Well, this is how we used to do things, but we don't do things like that anymore.
So, Joel, you have a master's in education among your. He's a finance guy, really. But I've talked to him about, what do you think about teaching? So I wonder if you have any questions or any inspiration from hearing this.
Yeah, well, I think, just the educational side, it's one of the areas I'm starting to explore as I go through a bit of a transition myself as well. And, there were times earlier I would say, well, is there enough money? Is there enough, is that going to move me forward in career? But I'm curious as to sort of how that's taken you and how you're able to sort of reevaluate that at this point in life.
That's a very good question, because when they first called me, I went down to USC to meet the dean of the Annenberg School, and he said to me, we were at a luncheon, he said to me, I'm sorry, I don't really have any job. I thought, why am I here? But anyway, I said, well, let's just have lunch anyway. So we had lunch, and then 30 days before school started, they called me and said, could you teach? I said, I have no idea how to do it. But I learned. I learned from the kids. I learned from, and in terms of money, when you're an adjunct, it doesn't even pay for your gas, let me just say that. But when you then become on the faculty and you have that money and you have savings and you have health care, it is a fascinating thing. Not anything, I'm not like you, Joel. I'm not a business planner. Yeah. I've had good careers and I've made money, but not because I'm a great business planner. But I love it. I love learning.
No, that's inspiring, and I think definitely something to think about going forward is how to take it where I'd feel the same way. I've been educated in education, but I've never been a teacher, and that.
Yeah.
And I could tell already from being here, you're comfortable telling stories, and I think as an adjunct, and then being able to tell real life stories and not just academia is probably even more useful for the students too.
That's good, because sometimes I worry about that, but something like I tell them the story about Jennifer Lopez. So I
Would
was.
you like to hear this story?
This I may have a little interest in Jennifer
okay.
Lopez, a little celebrity crush I've been accused of potentially.
He didn't notice that in your bio.
He didn't.
Or
No.
anything.
So I was in the Hamptons, and they called and said, Jennifer Lopez doing a new TV series. Could you interview her? So I took the bus in, and there was a guy sitting next to me, and he asked me what I was doing, and I said, Jennifer Lopez. And he said, va, 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 boom. And I said to myself, I'm not doing that story. So what I did is I went on the set. I could see how funny she was. Family was there. What I did is I took the subway to the Bronx. I must have interviewed 50, 60 people. What do you think of Jennifer Lopez? What do you think? They all said the same thing. She made it out. She made it out. And so to me, that was a much better story. And the interesting thing about interviewing somebody when you're doing for print, but when you're doing for television, it's different because they can't relax in front of all the lights or the people. It's a different thing, but for print. And I found her interesting, smart, and a real role model. It wasn't what the guy thought I should do, though. No, she's a very smart person. Yeah.
So I'm seeing a theme with all the stories that you're telling of you being very resilient and thinking on your feet. And then you mentioned your mom. Do you feel like you draw a lot of inspiration from her, or is that just independently who you are?
No, I feel I draw a lot of inspiration from my whole 15 people in my mother's family, 11 in my father's. We all lived in the same neighborhood. I drew inspiration from all of them. I was the first girl to go to college of all these people.
Oh my gosh.
So that's the that's the love and the inspiration. That's the stability I grew up with. And I think that stability has really informed my life, you know. I was thinking when you were talking about being resilient, I went to Cuba to do a story about Mary Hemingway returning to Cuba. And it was really interesting. And then like at 10 o'clock one night, there's a knock on the door. You know, Fidel wants to see you. So we all have to go over and interview Fidel Castro. And that was amazing. I have a picture of me and Fidel. He's looking right into my eyes. I'm
Love
thinking,
to see it.
yeah. But what I'm saying is you have to be resilient. You have to think on your feet. You have to, you know, being a journalist is not like reading questions that you prepared. It's like going into a situation. Like if you had ever been to a genocide, if you'd ever seen what it's like for people, a whole country to come back, a whole country to survive, it changes your life forever. I mean, you think to yourself, I think to myself, I can get water just by, you know, going to a water fountain or going, you know, to the kitchen. No. In Rwanda, the women walk for miles, take water out of a well, put it on their head, and walk for miles back. No, so you get a perspective of this country and your life. And I think it's very, very, I think it has informed my life more than anything, I think, those stories.
And when you're talking with your students, I'm sure there's times that they're very hopeful and excited, and other times that they're terrified and concerned. And what do you feel like inspires them most that you can come up with when they're in those places?
That's a good question. Like right now, they're all terrified because graduation is next month.
Same for our daughter. We have a daughter about to
will they
graduate.
get a job? What job will they get? You know, I took him to the James Corden show, and James Corden said to the kids, it doesn't matter what your first job is. Just take a job. And so I think that was helpful, but they're also nervous now. I'm taking him to Jimmy Kimmel in a couple weeks. And I mean, look what Jimmy Kimmel's been through, you know.
Yeah.
But kids right now are so nervous about what will their first job be. I mean, just take a job. That's what I say.
That's good advice, definitely. Did you have any follow-up questions in that space before?
No, it was you were thinking about Jimmy Kimmel and what an exciting opportunity. It's
I know.
probably not every day in your university studies that you get a chance to be on set and meet. And you're right about Jimmy Kimmel. He went from, one of the key late night hosts to basically being thrown off air and then really making a comeback in there as well.
Yeah, he's like the symbol of resistance. Yeah. And that's what I like to do for students. I like to take them to places or have them, like I met a woman at a Hollywood event in the bathroom, and we were talking, and it turned out she was an Epstein survivor. So I said, would you come to my class? And she did.
Oh my gosh.
And she talked about what it was like, and it was riveting. So I think students, I like to bring them the things from the world to the class, not just from books, but from
real world
from the real world. Yeah. And sometimes my kids come.
Now, do you have a wait list for your classes? I would think that students are.
No, because I have 3 classes. I used to have one. It was very big, but I didn't like that. I don't like it when I can't know people. So I now have 3. I get maybe I do have a wait list. I think people are always saying, "Could I join your class?"
If they're asking to add, my guess
and I'll
is you
say
have a wait
sure.
list. You say sure. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, but I think life is so exciting as long as people are willing to take risks. So many people are not willing to take risks. Take a risk. Like, do you want to go to Rwanda? Yeah. Okay. I mean, I was reading about it on the plane. But what I'm saying is, people are shy. They think they're afraid to take risks. Take the risks. That leads to an exciting life.
Has there been any thing asked of you that you weren't so sure you wanted to do, that you had to convince yourself it was worth the risk?
I don't think so. I don't think so yet.
And you don't sound like you have any intention of slowing down anytime soon. Are
No.
You love what you do?
I do. I love what I do. And I think that, I've been afraid. I mean, it's scary to go to, a country when they're in the middle of a civil war like Sri Lanka. That was scary, but I'm not afraid. It's like a journalistic, it's like a cover that comes over you, and you just do it. Now later you start crying, but when you're doing it, you feel a protective cloak over you.
You're like in character for your journalist role.
Yeah.
And while we're talking about that, who are your favorites, who you've interviewed, and who was the most polite? Does anyone stand out as being the most polite?
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey.
I'm not surprised.
Not only most polite, but sexiest for sure. But I've interviewed, President Clinton in China talking about democracy just made me weep. And when Clint Eastwood was mayor of Carmel, walking down the street with Clint Eastwood, it was amazing. I mean, people were like, "Oh my God, there's Clint Eastwood." He's an interesting. One of the things I thought about Clint Eastwood was because the people around him stay, not all the women, but I mean all the crews and everything. That made me realize what a good guy he was, because the good guys are the ones that keep the people consistently. George Clooney, one of the funniest people ever. Just hilarious, but also now, as we see, has some real depth.
Yeah.
One of the things that I say, and I really do feel this, is when a celebrity talks about something important, people pay attention. When Leonardo DiCaprio goes to the United Nations to talk about global warming, people pay attention. So celebrities have an impact, and in some ways they have a responsibility.
Yes, and we, for a moment, could talk about where we were last night. I know we try to keep it very neutral, but we did go to a concert last night where...
Where was it?
We were at the Forum for Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band.
Yeah.
So fantastic night.
I bet.
Land of Hope and Dreams tour, also the No Kings tour. So there's a lot there, and we tend to be fairly neutral in our overall politics, but what an amazing and articulate way that he has to be able to talk about things that are meaningful to him and still be, you know, a figure of resilience and ideas for an audience that that just wants an argument on some things, not just necessarily to get their way, but to have their voice heard in key things.
Right. So when oh God, when Bruce Springsteen talks, people pay attention. Yeah. People pay attention.
For sure.
Yeah. Like, oh my God.
And he has for years. He has. We'll get you a drink while we start just carrying on, and Saul can always edit us out if it's. But he's always done that. He's always made his point of view known.
Right, really, since probably his fourth album that he started to get a little bit more into working class and working class politics, and Nebraska, that album around the acoustical album.
And look at what really the Beatles did when they were.
Yeah.
The Beatles, they got into politics. Oh, I'm sorry, Matthew. Oh, thank you.
Well, the one part that he had a long intro, which we taped, but the one part that was super interesting for me is when he mentioned that we need the right to have differences, we need the right to debate, we need the right to have a circle of people that don't think exactly like us, and that's a freedom that we should continue to have. That part in particular, I thought, hopefully no one can argue against that piece, but you know, I don't want to go too far down that path, but. Are you okay with your your water
I don't know
now?
why. I don't know what happened. I'm not sick, I promise.
Well, we're just having you talk so much. That's what it is.
Maybe that's it. No.
If you need another sip of water, we're fine.
Okay.
We want you relaxed and comfortable.
I think I'm okay.
And so when Victoria was on last time, she was in between two really interesting events too. Victoria and I used to work together years ago.
She told me.
Yeah, I was a journalist, and then I have been out of the field for a very long time. But she was running from one event to another event, and you're similar today. So could you just describe today where you were first and where you're going?
Okay. So at first I was at USC, and my guest was the former executive producer of Dateline NBC, and he'd been the producer for 20 years. So we talked about the evolution of primetime magazines, the evolution of Dateline, and the impact. And also, remember, Dateline had done that whole series on To Catch a Predator. So we talked about that, and we just talked about true crime, the evolution of true crime. And then I came here, and then tonight there is an event at the Dolby Theater, a screening of Kristen Bell's series, and then an interview with her afterward. And it'll be fun. And I think, I don't know why, but I go to a lot of things because I think that if I go, I keep learning. Like Lisa Kudrow is coming back with The Comeback, you know, and she's sort of the inspiration for this TV show with the students, TakeTwo. So I'm trying to get her to do an interview. Lisa, do it. Anyway.
We'll tag her.
Yeah. But,
whatever power we have.
But she's coming back. And so I think the whole philosophy of the show is exactly what you're talking about with your, which is it's never over until it's like, over.
Until it's over.
And you can evolve, you can do different things. I mean, who knew I was going to end up being a professor? Never would have known that. But the evolution is, I think now especially, I think there's no one path anymore. People have to be creative, they have to be inventive, and they have to, like what you're doing. You're doing what, like my students have to do when they graduate. They have to create their own business. And that's what you're doing. I think that's so important. Yeah, no, I do. I think it's really important. And also to get the message out that we're not dead.
Right. I think it's a good point. We're in a few groups online where there's, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of people in some of them. And there are a lot of people that seem to be in the same boat as me, where they were home. they followed their husband's career, and now they just really don't understand what their purpose is or what they can do with the skills that they had. And so for us, there's a lot of reasons we're doing this. One is if we can reach out to just one of those people who thinks they don't have a purpose. So would you have anything to say to that person?
What it made me think about is that, so my mother and all her sisters worked until they were in their 80s.
Oh my gosh.
They did. They just all worked. And so it was, without saying anything, it was a role model. And also I can say that I don't think anybody knows exactly what they're doing these days. I think this is a time of upheaval and creativity, and a time when people have to keep inventing things for themselves. So I think the people who stayed home are just joining what we all are facing in some way, you know? Like, I'm writing a book about the history of entertainment journalism. And I'm thinking, should I write this book and be a professor and I'm doing it all.
Great. Do we have a title yet?
The United States of Entertainment.
I like it.
Okay, will you come back when it's ready to be promoted?
I will. And I'm writing it with this friend of mine. And the truth is that sometimes I think to myself, oh, should I be doing this much? Shouldn't I slow down? People are always saying, you know, are you thinking about slowing down? And I think, no, I'm not. Even the doctor said to me, but I asked the doctor, honestly, this is the truth. I said to the doctor the other day, I said, if I still smoked and I still drank, what do you think my life would be now? And she said, you'd be dead. So you inadvertently do these things through your life that you have no idea are going to lead to a healthier life.
Well, is it okay to mention your path to sobriety? You've been sober for a while now, from what I understand.
I've been sober 48 years. I know, it's hard to believe.
Well, we don't know how old you are, but that's amazing.
But my path to sobriety was, this is the thing. I do want people to know this. People think that people have to be down and out and homeless and whatever. No. I'm a well-educated woman. I had a fantastic job, everything. It's just that I'm an Irish Catholic who came from all this, and you have to make a decision, Is that the road I want to go down, or do I want to go down another road? And then you spend your life helping people. That's what I've done. I've spent my life helping people. Journalists, by the way, all journalists, they smoked and drank, and that's what
they smoked in the newsroom when I was first started.
And the fact that I stopped smoking, did I know it was going to lead to health? No. Oh, and there's one other thing, swimming.
Oh, so you also swim?
40 years I've been swimming.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How often?
Well, I was doing it every day. I'm kind of a little bit now 3 days a week, but I do it at a Korean spa. That's another interesting thing. So here I am at a Korean spa in a culture that I don't know that much about, but that I'm learning about. It's a culture where people take care of each other. Like the grandmothers and the mothers and it's not a rushed culture. I'm not talking intellectually now. I'm just talking, it's a beautiful culture where people take care of each other. And in America, when we go to a gym or a spa, we go in, we go out, that's it. No, that's not what happens.
So you take your time, you
take
savor
your
the
time,
moments.
you go to the jacuzzi. It's beautiful. Have you ever been to a Korean spa in Los Angeles? Oh, they're amazing. There are 5 or 6 of them. They're amazing. And it's just a culture. It's like slipping into another culture, and I think that is important too. I think we need to do more of that. I think there's so much animosity because people just don't understand each other.
True, and I like that advice. Anytime someone says we should go to a spa.
We have it right here on the freebirding list to do.
Yeah, you
freebirding
should.
to-do list.
And we're trying what everyone's suggesting
and
to
they
us.
separate the men and the women, by the way.
Okay. Well, it looks like we're maybe getting close to the time that we need to let you go to your next event.
Okay.
But First of all, we have absolutely loved having you.
Thank you.
And we definitely want you back, particularly when your book is
the book
released,
comes,
for
yeah.
sure. Did you have any follow-up?
No
questions
questions,
or
but I
comments,
certainly
or-
wanted to say what an amazing story that you bring to the table, and so
Thank
much
you.
inspiration. So much appreciate you
Thank
being
you.
able to take the time between two very exciting parts of your day, and hopefully we were at least somewhat exciting as
Oh,
as
no,
the
it
third
was
piece of
great. It made me think.
You survived your first podcast.
I survived.
I'm surprised you haven't done a podcast. So we're thrilled to have been your first podcast.
You are. What's the name of the podcast?
The Freebirding Friedman.
The Freebirding Friedman. Oh, you did say that.
So
yeah.
our last name is Friedman, and then Empty Nest sounds kind of sad. And a while ago, somebody said, we call ourselves the Freebirders that we know. And we thought, oh, because you can make more
Acting like
choices.
Freebird, so you can go to Rwanda
I know
or
we're
Cuba.
over, but I want to say one more thing about empty nest, because I have walked so many people through this. See, they think, oh, life's over, because you spend your whole life dedicated to the kids. But what they don't understand is there's a whole new life ahead, because you don't know it until you say goodbye and weep and cry and sob and, oh my God, I'm going to miss them so much. And then there's a whole other life.
You have to put the pieces back together. And
But by the way, they always come back home.
Yeah.
we have one home right
You
now,
know
too.
how it is, and they may show up, and their children may come and ask you to dance. At 8
The
a.m. in the
evolving
morning.
nest is really more like it. Well, thank you so much,
You're
Mary.
welcome.
And it's
You're
been
welcome.
a pleasure.
Thank
and
you.
We really appreciate you being here.
Good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
This episode is supported by Friedman Multimedia, LLC, our family's creative home base. Through Friedman Photos, our storytelling podcasts, and thoughtful CFO-level financial guidance, we help people capture memories, find their voice, and move confidently into their next season. Wherever your journey takes you, we're thrilled to be part of it.
Thank you so much for joining us for Freebirding Friedmans. We look forward to seeing you on our next episode.